So Sonic the Hedgehog, yep, I'm starting it off like a classic Pariah video. Well, you'll know why later on. We're going to start off with the first Sonic game because I already did the character of Sonic and I did the character of Eggman, so now I'm doing the first game that had both of them in it, Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, you may be wondering, hey Soul Benku, hasn't Pariah already did a video like this, explaining the mechanics and everything? Yes, and I'm doing it again. Fuck you. No, but in all seriousness, I am doing this because, as you've seen by the title of this video, it is my adventure through Sonic the Hedgehog. So, a lot of stuff that happened with Pariah will be mentioned in this video because it is very important to my adventure through Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, I'm going to do my best not to go one for one and do everything like Pariah did. Of course, Pariah was a big impact on me playing the Sonic games as of lately, especially the ones I have played and the ones I haven't played yet. So, I'm going to go over all of those in this video and a little bit more in other videos, of course. And I want to do this along with the character videos because I think it's very important to get these out of the way when we're talking about the stories and characters of this franchise. So to start off, before I actually talk about my experience, I'm just going to talk about the physics. The physics are the biggest part of Sonic the Hedgehog because, as we all know, he's basically a Mario clone. But in the idea of being a Mario clone, he takes a lot from Mario and kind of makes it better, along with taking, of course, as we all know, the pinball physics, the momentum, but of course you already know about all this. I just want to talk about how important it is and how it really had an impact on how I saw these games and how I play them nowadays. And it was all thanks to Pariah because no other Sonic YouTuber actually tried to explain the physics with science. And if you actually look at the series, it has science to it when it comes to some parts of gameplay. Some of it doesn't actually work, but a lot of it does have some falling into logic in real life, especially when you think about pinball physics and you think about a pinball. It's basically a game full of physics that you kind of have to maneuver yourself around at high speed to get the high score. Now, I'm not going to go into all the pinball physics because I am not a science person. I was not that growing up. But I can suggest to you to go watch Pariah's video on Spinball and how it influenced Sonic, because it's a very important game that really shows how Sonic has so much influence and how automation works and how it's different from what we think of automation as of today in the Sonic franchise. And of course, since I'm plugging that video, I might as well plug another video where it talks about the relations and gameplay between Mario and Sonic, because a lot of what I'm going to say here is also going to be said in that video as well, because it's very important to how we see Sonic's gameplay and how it came to life. To start off, let's actually talk about the gameplay. I know Pariah already did this. I'm going to try and give a faster gist of how the game works and kind of go over the nuance of the game as well. Starting off with running. As we already know, Sonic is very famous for running, of course, because he's the fastest thing alive, but how they execute Sonic running is really actually unique because of the fact that it's literally subverting what Mario does with running. Because if you played a Mario game like 1, 2, World, any of those games, you would know that if you run with Mario, you have to press an entire separate button just to run. And in retrospect, that's kind of stupid, but it was a thing, and it still kind of is a thing today, and I wish it wasn't, but we got what we got. But with Sonic, their idea was to make it better. So what they did was just have the stick let you move faster and move slower. You can actually walk at a certain pace. If you keep tapping the stick constantly, you'll go at a slower pace and can actually kind of walk to like hold on to slow down a little bit. Or if you want to keep that speed, just keep holding to the right and keep up with that speed. Now, of course, the second thing, which is the jump. The biggest thing in Mario is that he's a jump man, but Sonic takes this idea again and makes it different, because instead of just having Mario just jump on top of a Goomba's head and be very specific or you could die, Sonic tries to do something different by having his entire body being a hitbox. Obviously, because he's a hedgehog, it makes the most sense that he would be doing that when it comes to actually making his gameplay different. So they made that a part of his gameplay, and I think that was very cool because it made him have an entire hitbox, so you don't have to be super precise. But I know a lot of people may have a problem with that, but I think it works very well for trying to keep the pace of the game, and I think it feels very unnatural if he wasn't doing that, in my opinion. And anything else besides that with jumping, it's just the most basic thing. You jump, that's pretty much it. Nothing interesting happens until the next game. Now going on to rolling. Of course, if you press down, then you'll start rolling. Of course, if you just press down standing still, you'll look down, and if you press up looking up, you'll look up. It's a basic idea of looking up and looking down. It really does nothing in the game. The one big problem with Sonic gameplay is that the distance you see is not very good for actually playing the game functionally, and it kind of is an excuse because on the Sega Genesis, and also because they didn't want to push Sonic away from the screen as much, which you actually can fix with a mod I have on my mod loader, and it's on Pariah's mod loader, because I'll actually add both in my description. Mine isn't finished fully, so you'll probably get Pariah's first and then mine will come out later, or it'll be at the same time, who knows. Now, with rolling, we kind of have to talk about something that was in the original Sonic 1. Because if you didn't know by now, I'm using Sonic 1 Forever. I am not using the original Genesis game, and I'm not using Christian Whitehead's version. Christian Whitehead's version is very good, and the original game is not that good, and Sonic Origins, well, that's just bad, but we're not talking about that today. With Sonic 1 Forever, it has a bunch of new features that makes it better than any of the other games, because you can have the spin dash, you can have stuff from Mania, you can have stuff from Sonic 3, you can have Amy, Tails, and Knuckles playable, and it just added Amy, and she's so much fun and she's so cute in the game, look at her. Besides that, it adds a lot of tweaks which makes it actually play like the original Sonic game back on the Sega Genesis. So instead of taking all of your time to look for a Sega Genesis in the store for 15 hours or eBay for 15 hours, you can actually just go here and play the game like it was in the original game. As you see right here, I am playing the game with those original physics. Of course, I'm already good at the game. Well, you wouldn't hear that from original Sonic video, but you can see here I'm using normal classic physics. I just know what to do, so you don't really have to worry about it as much. There's one problem that comes with that, and it's called the roll lock. With the roll lock, when you go down and turn into a ball, you cannot get out of it by moving left or right. The only way you can get out of it is if you execute a jump which takes you out of the roll, which actually kind of feels right for some people, but I feel it does hold back the player and kind of makes them have to, you know, kind of keep up their speed in a way that feels kind of unnatural, but it kind of works for this game. And the next problem that actually comes with Sonic 1, which is why I would never suggest playing the original, is the speed caps. If you don't know what the speed caps are, of course I would suggest watching Pariah's video, but I'm going to explain it here. The speed cap is basically where if you're running down a hill, you see as you're running you're going at a standard speed, and that feels weird if you played another Sonic game after this. But the speed cap, what it basically does is if you go down a hill, you usually would gain speed, just like how physics work. But due to the speed cap, when you go downhill, you stay at a steady speed and you don't go any faster. But if you do it while pressing down and going into a roll, you'll automatically gain all that speed and you're able to control it and use it however you like. And this is specifically only for the original game. This is taken out in later games, and I'm thankful that they took this out because it really made no sense to exist. The speed cap basically stops you from using all your speed at the end of the day because it's just there to kind of slow you down. Like here's the instance that Pariah used that I thought was really good explaining it. When you run down this hill and you hit this gap in between it, you can literally see Sonic going back to his standard speed and you don't even make it up the ramp. But if I press down and don't touch it at all, as you can see, I made it across. There was no problem, nothing that stopped me from getting to the top. It was only because of the speed cap that it made me stop there. While these are problems, they aren't huge problems that break the game and make the game even worse. It's just, it kind of doesn't fundamentally work for Sonic. And of course I'm saying this as a person who's played Sonic in the future after we've had over 50 games, 30, 40, I don't know. But it does feel like it is breaking that speed for the sake of making you do things how they want you to do specifically, instead of using the environment around you as much as they expected you to. And a lot of this stuff has great relations to Mario, and that's why now I'm going to touch a little bit on the physics. Again, I am not like Pariah. I wasn't a science nerd or nothing like that. I didn't have a big love for science, and I kind of didn't understand the fundamentals unless I really thought about it in a more basic standpoint. Okay, so when going into Mario kind of holds this idea, which is you have to basically use the platforming and the surrounding platforms around you to basically gain speed and keep going fast. This is not for every game in Mario, but especially the older games, they did try their best to really do this. Especially in Mario and the Lost Levels, this is very much a Sonic game, but a little bit slower. Here's something that probably a lot of fans know, but a lot of fans don't really use in execution. The whole idea with Sonic is building, maintaining, and applying speed. With that, it comes to a lot of new Sonic fans where they're playing a game and they know, oh, Sonic can go up loop-de-loops, but they don't actually know how he's doing it. And it's very simple if you really think about it. It's all about momentum, which is either the mass or the speed of something coming at you. And with Sonic, he represents that momentum whenever he is in the game, because Sonic represents a ball. If you think of it like this, it makes the most sense. Let me go into it. So for instance, everyone knows that Sonic can go into loop-de-loops and stuff like that, but how do you actually do it? It's quite simple. All you need to do is be able to gain speed to get around the loop-de-loop. It's that simple. Again, think of it like a ball. If you toss a ball very lightly around a loop-de-loop, it's not going to go through. But if you toss it and it gains a bunch of speed, it can of course shoot through that loop-de-loop easily and come out the other end. No problem. That's the idea they're going for with Sonic. And I think it makes the most sense when you think of it logically, because Sonic tries to get you to understand this logic when you're doing it. Of course, there is the added speed caps, which kind of messes up this idea, but it still works in practice. Here's another example of ball physics. When you drop a ball at a certain height, it bounces right back up to you. For instance, a basketball. This works with Sonic too, because there is a special thing in platformers where if you jump on something and you hold the button, you can go back up. Sonic has this, but due to how much height you have, when you drop down, you can bounce right back up. Basically, because of your downwards momentum, manipulating it, make you able to go up. But you also have the option to do this, which allows you to make some cool tricks and stuff to do when you're going through these levels. Now, when we go into it, how do you build speed? It's very simple. When you go downhill, you'll gain speed, and you use that speed to go through any obstacle that comes your way. And with Sonic being a very strong force in nature which can break through robots, of course that speed is going to be very useful. And I'm probably going to say this here before I go to the other games, but there are actually other games later in the series that uses momentum way better than this game. But this was the first example because it's the first game ever, and they do it pretty well here. But when we're talking about building speed, again, all you have to do is go down a hill, do not press any buttons or anything. Of course, you know, the speed caps, and once you do that, you'll be able to go downhill very easily and gain all this speed. Now, when it comes to maintaining that speed, of course, you know, with the Sonic game, it's a platformer, but you have to use that speed you built and use the platforming around you to basically build yourself up to go faster and hit crazy jumps and stuff like that. Like for instance, let's look at this right here. You see I have all this speed, and when I get to this certain point, I'm able to launch myself up in the air and I get up to a higher route. That's because I was building, maintaining, and applying speed. When you can apply that speed, you can do some crazy jumps. So again, we're going to applying again. Here's another instance. If you're going down a certain hill and you build up enough speed and you maintain that speed, then you can of course get to this higher area and then use this spring to make you go on to the next part of the level. Again, it's a very simple idea. For instance, if you had a ball, the ball cannot maintain that much speed due to human strength. If a human pushed them as hard as they could probably get it up the hill, but they couldn't get it to shoot off and then continue applying that speed and building off of it. It's just very hard for you to do that because of the fact that humans are not that strong. But if the ball was shot out like a bullet, it could probably do that and go very high in the air and do some crazy stuff with that applied speed. But of course, since it's a video game and Sonic can jump pretty high, of course you're going to be able to actually do this in game because it makes the game more fun. It makes the game feel fast. It makes the game feel earned. I feel a lot of fans or people who are new to Sonic play these games and don't get it, and it's not a bad thing. Of course, you don't know the physics behind it. I didn't know for the longest time, but I was able to manage because I understood some of the ideas. These ideas are very simple, and all you have to do is just play around with it inside the game. Like for instance, there's these ramps here. If you jump at certain angles with these ramps, you can basically jump at certain ways. If you're near the bottom of the ramp, you'll jump forward. If you're near the top of the ramp, you'll jump higher. Here's a good instance of me jumping higher in this level. When I found this out while playing the game, it was like, wow, I can skip this entire part just by doing this, just because I understand the physics. Of course, if you launch a ball up, it's going to launch up and go high in the sky if it's being shot like a bullet. If you launch the ball and there's a piston pushing it the opposite way, depending on it's going up a curved wall, it's going to push to the opposite way. It's kind of like wall jumping, for instance. If you ever see someone doing parkour, again, they usually have a head start running and then they jump up and then use that momentum to basically apply it and shoot back up to the next side, to then go to the next side and go to the next side. That idea is basically momentum being built and applied. And of course, when you maintain that momentum, you can get up to the highest part of the building. It's a very basic idea and it works so well in Sonic, and I think it makes makes the most sense when you're trying to talk about a fast game. And as we know, wall jumping does become a thing in this series later on in some other games which I can't mention right now. Of course, when we talk about Mario has something very similar to this, but it wasn't the same. And Sonic really did take it to the next level. And I feel like with this game, they were really trying to make something different and something very unique. And that's why I feel that of course I like this game more, but also that this is a cool way of experimenting with those original physics of Mario and basically making them better. Now, enough of the physics. I'm not that good at this, and I kind of had to listen to Pariah and understand these ideas a little bit just to get to this point. So now we're just going to talk about the actual game itself. I know it's about my adventure through Sonic, but we're going to go through that, don't worry, especially when I get to my opinions on levels. Before we get to that, let's talk about some of the basic stuff in Sonic. Of course, you have rings, you get hit, they spread around everywhere, and they basically mess up everything, and oh, I gotta grab this, I gotta grab that, yada yada yada, just to keep yourself alive. Have you ever thought that this is like Yoshi from Mario, and it's literally done with rings, and you can grab Yoshi in the original Mario games, but just like the Mario games, you can grab rings, and these rings are basically Yoshi, but they last for a very long time, and I have problems with them because of the fact that they literally kind of are always there, and it's kind of hard to die, and rings kind of have no point of really existing because at the end of the day you can survive with just one ring. But I guess that's the fun in the game. People love to collect rings, even though the game wasn't made for that specifically. It's just a part of the mechanic, but it does exist and it is a part of the series, and I am thankful for it sometimes because I do be getting my ass whooped sometimes with no rings. You won't see it in here because I haven't recorded it. And then of course we have all the item boxes, of course, but there's not many here, so we're not going to go over it too much. Of course, we got the shield, we got the speed, and we got the 10 rings. And of course, if you get hit, you lose 25 rings, and yada yada yada. That's the same thing that happens in every Sonic game, and it adds more, adds less, whatever. Now, let's go on to the levels. First of all, you know we have to start off with Green Hill Zone. I know, the most infamous level ever, Green Hill Zone. It's very good. It's not bad at all. It's actually the best levels to play when you want to play a Sonic game because it feels like a Sonic game. As we know from the production standpoint, this was one of the games where they really did this level last to really get the players into the game. Too bad they didn't do that for the rest of the levels, but they started off really good. I love all the hills and all the loop-de-loops, and it just feels like a Sonic game, and it feels like an experience of speed, and it feels like it's really teaching you how to play the game and how to use that momentum by building, maintaining, and applying that speed. And this level feels perfect for that, and I'm glad that they took all the time to do this, but at the same time you could have did better with the other ones. Now the next one is Marble Zone, and Marble Zone is not that good. I'm gonna be honest. Marble Zone is one of those levels that's kind of okay, but it holds a lot of the problems that Green Hill Zone ignored. For instance, we know Sonic is a platformer, but when we play this level, it's just a platformer for the most part. There is some speedy parts here and there, but most of the time, you're stopping for spikes, you're killing enemies so you don't get hit, you're waiting on these swings so you don't die of a lava, you have to jump over these certain little bricks, and then you have to not get hit by spikes, and it's just everywhere, and there's a lot of lava everywhere, and it kind of brings down your speed. Again, this works for a platformer in its ideas, but as a Sonic level, it's not that good. Now, there is some cool skips here that can use some type of speed, like for instance right here, if you see these platforms and you see this one block that you can stand on top, you can actually use that to your advantage and use that speed to jump over these platforms to make it to the top. And it's like that for 2 zones. But then when you get to the 3rd zone, they're like, oh, okay, you want to do that here? No, you can't. You literally have to stop everything you're doing, push the block, get into the lava, and slowly wait for it to get to this certain part where the lava will shoot up and you can make it to the higher route. Thank God for Amy, I could just shoot up and not give a shit. But in the original game, and of course in Forever still, it's still pretty dumb. Now, this is where I recommend a mod that I added that actually makes the level a little bit better because it adds certain sections to these levels which makes these levels less annoying and kind of gets rid of most of these parts that feel very slow and feel like it's dragging the level down, but it doesn't get rid of all of them, sadly. If you know where to go, it's very easy and it's very good, but you also know that there's going to be problems with it, but it isn't helping with the whole Sonic layout. It just makes it a little bit better. In my opinion, it doesn't fully get rid of the problem, but it makes it a little bit better, and I think that's fine when we're talking about this level specifically, because I really don't care, and I will still suggest it to you. Next one is Spring Yard Zone, and it's bad. No, actually, Spring Yard Zone isn't that bad. It's just a lot of springs and a lot of waiting, and it's not really fun as Green Hill Zone. Marble Zone, it's a little bit better than, but not really. There are these certain enemies that have spikes on top of them, and you kind of can't really do anything but press down. But if you literally hit them at certain angles, they'll just kill you anyway, so it's really no point. And then you have these platforms that go up and down, and you have to squeeze to go down, and you have to squeeze to go up, and it's a lot of going up and down, and it doesn't follow the same rules as Green Hill Zone, and it does make it less fun than the other levels, which I will talk about later. Especially with its moving spikes and chain spikes coming around attacking you and stuff like that, it just feels very slow. It's kind of okay to play. You can get some okay shortcuts here, but it's not the best level. Now, here's the worst level in the game ever. Labyrinth Zone. Again, not super bad if you know what you're doing, but for a new player, and this is their first time playing this level, you are probably going to struggle a lot. The bubbles come up very slow, and it's a very slow level. Again, we're supposed to be playing a fast Sonic game, and we're going this slow. Yeah, it's kind of bad. All the spikes everywhere, the certain enemies that pop out of nowhere, which you really kind of have no visuals to see. There is a rule to Sonic that actually does help you with this to some degree, but I'm not going to talk about it in this video. But overall, it's just very slow, waiting for these moving platforms to move you up, move you down. You got to watch out for certain areas and tight spots. There's just a lot of spikes everywhere, and it's really just asking you to, hey, find this thing, use this thing, make sure you find this thing to do this thing. It doesn't feel good, and then it's like, oh, hey, there's a quick jump, little cool thing here, but it leads to nothing, and you have to do the level normally. But then the next one we go to, I actually find really good. It's Starlight Zone. Starlight Zone is a very fun level. I think it's actually one of my favorites. I think it's better than Green Hill Zone. I don't know, I just kind of like the metallic colors and the green to it. It just feels very corrupted and weird. It also just makes it work for this kind of level. Again, it's called Starlight Zone, so it feels kind of more like a factory in some type of way, but we're not talking about the whole visuals of it. But the actual level itself, it's actually pretty fun. It has you starting off with some speed, and then you have to dodge certain enemies a little bit, but then once you use that speed to your advantage, you can get to these higher places, and it works so good when you're actually playing this level and you know Sonic's physics, so you could do some crazy jumps. I don't know if Pariah ever did this before in one of his gameplays or time attacks, but if you literally do this secret jump, it helps get most of the level, and it's like, wow, I didn't know I could do this. And it's even in the third act too, and I think it's so fun that I just found that just by using the physics to my advantage and finding this new way to get through it, even though there's already another speed path that I could have done to get there. And this is where that crazy jump from earlier came from in Act 3, and I don't know why, I just love it so much. It's just so good, and I really can't wait to get to the next games where it actually becomes more of an ideal thing for Sonic levels. Now, Scrap Brain Zone, this one is also good. I think Scrap Brain Zone kind of mixes the platforming and the speed kind of well, but I still like it because you can gain some speed, and if you know the level okay enough, you can genuinely find some faster routes, and you can use the manipulation of rings and stuff to help you really get through the level faster and get to the end of it very quick. Now, here's my time attack of this one level, and it's just how fast I got through it because I used the rings to my advantage, and because of just how the level is formatted, and I understand it and I get it, so I'm able to use it to my advantage, and it's just so fun. I promise, if you play Green Hill Zone, Starlight Zone, and Scrap Brain Zone, I swear you will have the most fun you ever had with a Sonic game. Probably. This is just me though. I haven't got to the other games yet, even though I've already played them, but yeah. But wait guys, there's a twist. There's a final fuck you, and it's called Scrap Brain Zone Act 3, which is just Labyrinth Zone Act 4, motherfucker. It's so bad. It's not that bad, but it's so bad that we had to go back to Labyrinth Zone as a final fuck you from Sonic Team to say, hey, you hate this? Okay, we'll go back to it. You love this slow level design? Cool, we're doing it again. Like, it's very bad, and I hope that they never do this again because I will come for you. But it's not that bad. It's very short and it's done in no time if you know what you're doing, and if you already played and beat Labyrinth Zone, it's not that hard. And that's all the levels, and they're pretty mixed bag, which is why I can never call this a great game, but I can call it a good game. But now we're going to go to a lot of the classic Pariah negatives. Starting off with the bosses, none of them are good. They were never good. They're fundamentally not good. I don't personally find them good. They don't need to exist. Please stop. Don't bring these back ever again. They will. I know. It's 32 years in the future. Please stop. The bosses really break the pacing of this game because I have a mod that specifically takes out all the bosses in Sonic 1, and it's so much better and it's so much faster. If you actually see the recordings I have for Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy, the gameplay is way shorter when you take out every boss except for the final boss. I can beat the game in 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and 45 minutes. Under 50 minutes. I never have been over 50 minutes playing this game because, again, the bosses really do break the pacing in a bad way. Then, of course, we have the special stages. They suck. Please stop. Stop bringing back special stages. They're so bad. Please, 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 please. Oh yeah, lives fucking suck. Why are they in this game? Please stop. Score also kind of sucks, but I don't have much of a problem with it. I still think it exists for a reason, and it's okay. And also, getting the Chaos Emeralds really doesn't give you anything, and there's really no point of it being here besides the good ending where nothing happens. Again, skipping bosses and special stages is the ideal way to play this. Of course, you can always try and play them later if you really want to get the Chaos Emeralds. Just like in Forever, they have a certain thing in here that's in 2 that you can play in this game. So if you want to do that, you can, but they really don't help the pacing of this game, and I wish they were gone, but they'll be here forever as far as the games we have next. And besides that, that's pretty much everything on the main game itself. Now we're going to move on to mine and Pariah and a lot of newer Sonic fans' favorite part of the Sonic games, time attacking. Time attacking has already been described by Pariah in his video itself, but for me personally, this is where I find the most fun out of playing Sonic 1, which is time attacking. And this is not speed running, this is time attacking. Speed running is using the game itself to break it and manipulate it so you can get the fastest time, like 2 seconds or 10 seconds, and do these crazy skips that are unnatural and break the game and do all that. That's not this. I think that it's fun for some people. I was never a person who really watched that type of stuff. It was very to me, but when I found out about time attacking, it was like, oh, this makes the game so much more fun than I actually thought it was, because time attacking is basically the idea of get the fastest time you want. And with getting the fastest time you want, it's about you taking the time to learn these levels and use these levels to your advantage to get the fastest time that you can get specifically. It's not about competition. It's not about being the best. It's not about showing off your true Sonic gameplay or whatever. No, you're just time attacking for you. And I think that's very good when we're talking about a game like Sonic that was made for the Sega Genesis, which is a home console without online. It's a personal way to play the game, and it's all about speed, and Sonic's about speed, so of course you want to do time attacking because you want to play a Sonic game. And as we see in Sonic games, it's all about speed. It's not about that other stuff we'll get into later. It's all about using that speed and going fast like the marketing tells you. And I think time attack is so perfect to do that. Now, if you want to know how to get into time attacking, it's a very simple idea. All you have to do is go through level your first time, get all the Chaos Emeralds, then study the levels, go through them a couple times, find the fastest times you think you can get, and then execute it perfectly. To your own degree. Of course, if you think perfectly is you missing some robots, getting hit a couple times, and still getting a cool time that you think is good, that's for you. If you think it's getting everything right and never messing up once and doing it as perfectly as you think in your head, you can do that too. Time attack is all about you being creative and having fun and learning these levels and using the ideas of Sonic to do it. Using the ideas of momentum, using the ideas of building, maintaining, and executing your speed. And I think that that's very well done in this game to some degree. Of course, besides the 3 levels which I hate, well, 3 1/4 levels that I hate, that really does feel like the real idea of Sonic here. And when going into my experience, this is why I love Sonic. When talking about Sonic, people just think it's another Mario game or another video game that was in competition with Mario back in the day, but now it's just a whatever series. But looking at this game, you can see that it wasn't just another Mario game, another competition. It was actually trying to do something different, and that's why I loved this game when I was growing up. Because let's be honest, when I grew up with this game, it wasn't fully for the fact that it was the original Sonic game. No, I like Sonic. The only real Sonic game I played before this was Sonic Riders Zero Gravity gravity. I know, kill me. But when playing my first ever official Sonic game, it was on the Sonic Classic Collection on the DS. I don't know how good it is by today's standards, but I had so much fun with the game. I was bad at it, but I had so much fun with the game. This game brings me so much nostalgia, but it doesn't bring it in a way of my satisfaction that I have today. The satisfaction that I have for today is because of the love that I have for Sonic and the game that it is itself. It has nothing to do with just nostalgia. It has to do with what this game gives you, and I think it genuinely works, and this game perfectly shows you what Sonic is about. And when growing up, of course I played every other version of this game. I played the Christian Whitehead version, I played Origins, but Forever right now is basically the best way to play this game, especially if you want to play as Amy and have a fun moveset that can be a little broken. Yes, if you want to play as Tails, Knuckles, or if you want to add any of the visual or sound artistic aspects that I add in my mod loader that makes this game so good or so pleasing or so enticing to look at or be in or just play for fun, this is what Sonic 1 is about. I don't care about playing the original version, the original way it was supposed to be done, because that's what Sega intended, when Origins literally ignores that, when it doesn't make sense because video games are always changing, and especially with Sonic, for the better. So when I'm coming back to this, I don't feel that same nostalgia. I feel the nostalgia for me making new memories with this game compared to me when I was younger. When I was younger, I was very bad at the game. I would barely get past Green Hill Zone, and when I did make it to another level, I would literally die and would have to start over again. Which goes into another thing. Lives, they suck. With the idea of lives really making me kind of mad because I would always die and wouldn't be able to get to the next level and see what happens with Sonic and Eggman. Of course, I would have probably died multiple times if we had save files, but at least I would have been able to experience the rest of this game. When we got to the Christian Whitehead port, I was so happy because these games I would play on my 3DS were now on my phone. It was in a mobile capacity where you could play this and have so much fun with Sonic, but this time I could actually save. And of course I didn't get far. I was pretty much stuck in Marble Zone, but I was still like early teens, late kid era, so I wasn't too understanding of the gameplay itself at that time, but I didn't have to understand it that much because again, I was playing Sonic 1. It still was fun and I still came back to it every time because no matter how hard the game is, I never give up. And when I talk about Sonic and his character in my video, I talk about how Sonic never gives up and how Sonic wants people to be who they are and how Sonic wants people to have fun. And this idea is literally conveyed in this game and Sonic 1 Forever and how much I literally have fun with this game. Now, I know I didn't do a lot of talking about the more fundamental stuff of this game, or you wanted to hear what else I had in this venture with Sonic, but at least what I talked about for now felt very personal and it feels like I can do more with this, especially with me not having a lot of knowledge of the next Sonic games. And I hope you guys actually do enjoy this and actually want more of this, because while talking about the characters is fun, I do want to talk about these games too, because these games are what Sonic was made for, literally. So I would love to keep doing this again, and if we can keep doing this, I hope you join me in this adventure.